Pelicans fall 118-114. Podcast presented by Birdsall Law Firm, the official lawyers of Boo Crew Media, located at 918 Porter Street by the Superdome. Give them a call at 504-523-5413. Birdsall Law Firm, the official injury lawyers of Boo Crew Media. Let's just get into it. Blew a 24-point lead. Devin Booker scored 58. We'll go with Chaz, Lou, and Lito and Schmidt. Presented by DraftKings Sportsbook and also Country Burger, located at 4600 Red Street. They've given up, Chaz, 40 offensive rebounds in the last 3 games. 40.
Yeah, it's really concerning. I don't think that's the reason we lost, but it certainly plays a factor. I think by the time we started really giving up those offensive boards, the game had really been off its rails. But look, I said this before. Najee and Devontae Graham are the 2 best guys on this team as far as boxing out. You got a 6'6" power forward with a T-Rex wingspan. You got JV who can't, JV does what he can. JV had some really good rebounds in the first half. But when in the second half, and of course it's not just this game, but it's just this team, the energy isn't there. Like they just getting this deer in the headlights, and all those physical limitations, that wingspan, Larry Nance being 6'7", those things start to show themselves. You've seen it early this season with when we played the Mavericks and Maxi Keebler got all those rebounds in the fourth. It's just this team has a size issue at the 5 and at the 4, and it needs to be addressed.
Schmidt, I'm going to go to Lito here, but I want to read Schmidt's tweet because I think it's important because Lito and I were just talking about this. So this is the actual stat, Lito. JV was 5 of 7 in the first quarter. In the first quarter, he was 5 of 7. After that, he got 2 shot attempts the rest of the game.
I thought it was 1. So, all right. All right. Why go away from what works? You were bludgeoning them to death in the first half. Why do you go away from what works? When you see the 24-point lead, right? Why not make it a focus to get that man the ball so he can get into the rhythm again? Obviously, like you saw how the game was going when JV was involved. We just go away from that. We trade baskets. We trade threes for threes. We find out Josh Okogie is the best offensive rebounder of all time in NBA history. Like, it is insane, bro. Like, I don't understand that. I don't know. Schmidt says this often, and I agree with him with this point, man. It's like, yo, if you're not gonna trust JV, if you're not gonna trust Willie, you Jackson is unplayable. Find a big that we can play. I love Larry Nance to death. So this is not like a shot at him, but like on the board with his minutes in clutch time, it feels like we get killed. And it's not Larry's fault. It's how the game. It's how the game went, because you blitz Booker, right? So that means it's 2 people. Somebody has to rotate. It's a scramble drill at that point, and we just didn't have the height or the bodies to take care of it.
Schmidt, go ahead.
Larry Nance had 0 shot attempts tonight.
So that was another stat.
No field goals taken. I think this game was another example of Willie reverting to his default habits when things get tight. We've seen it a lot. We saw it a lot last year. The biggest moment I think we all remember was the Tony Snell substitution in the play-in game. I think everyone remembers that. But this is he has a consistent track record of subbing in defense first, quote unquote defense first players, wings who are limited on offense, can't create, can't shoot, putting out lineups that struggle to beat people off the dribble or just generate good looks. And it's a lot of, hey, CJ, please go do something. Hey, Zion, please go do something. Or to a lesser extent, hey, Jose, please go do something. Those are your 3 main guys that are really breaking the defense down, generating looks for others or themselves. But when you do that and you start playing oh my God, this guy, has made a few buckets in a row. We got to go cool him down. And you punt on your own offense, that's what loses the game to you. Because if Booker kept on scoring at the rate he was going, Phoenix went on a 26-6 run. And if the Pelicans had scored 15 points in that stretch instead of 6, 17 points, 13 points, it's a different ball game. You just need to keep scoring. Booker's not going to outscore you by himself if your offense is working. But if you keep freaking out about the fact that he's doing this and you keep subbing in all of these quote unquote defensive players who sometimes when you play against a great player, and Booker is a very great player, he's one of the league's best scorers, they're going to have nights where they just go off like that. And it's on you to not overreact and run your sets and run a coherent offense. Go to what's been working. JV was working, right? So if you're going to have Larry Nance out there, like the whole advantage of teams playing small is to just run other teams off the court and make the offense so strong that they can't play their big, right? Like that's the whole advantage of going small. And the Pelicans never capitalize on that advantage of going small. The only purpose they go small is because they don't trust their other guys to play defense. So it's just for defense purposes. And let's say you do get a stop. Who's getting the rebound? So you got to get another stop that possession, a third stop that possession. That's tough. It's tough to overcome.
Hey, y'all make great points. I want to read this tweet and then Chaz will get into you. But Devin Booker was asked about taking the last shot at the buzzer after Zion Williamson's last second dunk a few games ago. With a straight face, he said, just playing till the end. So you can tell this is a rivalry. You can tell I want to see them in the playoffs. Give me a 7-game series. Chaz, once again, I'm not understanding. I'm not understanding this. 3 minutes left. Zion makes a driving layup, cuts the lead to 2. They're down 2. After that, he didn't attempt another shot until 27 seconds.
Yeah, about 27 seconds. I'll say this.
What are we doing here, man? Just give him the ball in the last 2.5 minutes and get out of the way. He makes the right decision. The Larry Nance dump off was great, but then next possession they go to CJ McCollum, and guess what? It's a turnover.
Caught up
every time.
But again, like I said this last show, and it's like 3 shows in a row. I could just play it on tape delay, right? Sometimes when the team is winning and you got a coach, it's a coincidence. I don't think I think some of the mistakes you see late in games are a byproduct of the staff not necessarily knowing how to win and close games. I think sometimes this team happened with the last 2 Suns games. You were up by I think double digits and the Suns came back. You just happy to win those games. Sometimes the result is going to be random. It's been a bad process consistently. It's been consistently a bad process. If you're not you're not going to play JV. All right, just throw Willie out there. Give Utah a different look. You don't want to do that. All right, look, Larry's been good, but he's overmatched. He's getting run into the ground. And tonight you had guys that just no one knew what to do when the blitz started. Like when Phoenix started scoring and Zion wasn't on the floor and CJ wasn't, his hot streak had ended. No one knew what to do. You can't keep counting on Dyson Daniels hitting threes. You can't count on Herb Jones hitting threes. I thought Zion made the right basketball play at the end of the game. But my thing is this: it shouldn't even had gotten to that point. I don't like today with the Colts and the Vikings. I don't care what happened in overtime. You shouldn't be in overtime. Even if you would have won that game, you still played terribly because you let them come back. It was, and what happened today was just a byproduct of what's been happening all season. And I feel like the staff is lost. I don't think it's a talent roster issue. I feel like it's a staff issue, and I think I don't know how to correct it in season at this point.
So Lito, Chaz mentioned something, Schmidt mentioned something that's kind of like the same thing, right? There's a blitz, there's this avalanche of just Devin Booker going off, or maybe Jordan Clarkson going off, right? And you need that stopper. Well, that stopper, in my opinion, has been out for the last 10 games with a stub toe or a great toe sprain or whatever he's got going on there. Is Brandon Ingram? Listen, I don't know how hurt he is. I know he has the injury history. I love Brandon Ingram, as y'all all know. He's probably my favorite player. But Lito, this team needs him because he is that guy. I keep saying this, he's the fucking missing piece. When shit hits the fan, he's the guy. Y'all like go like this and that. Like, he's the guy. He's the guy. I keep telling everybody this. Oh, Brandon Ingram is the guy. Lito, go ahead then, Schmidt. Oh, is Lito muted? Lito, you're muted. Hold on.
I'm sorry. My
Go
bad.
ahead, brother.
My bad. As far as the stopper goes, I don't know about that. But what I do know
Y'all
is
fucking crazy, bro.
what I do know is it definitely would have helped when you have these laws in
Yes.
being on bro. That run where we couldn't get a bucket, it felt like for 12 fucking
You talking about the
minutes.
third quarter there? Was it late third?
Yes. That brand of basketball is so infuriating. And it's crazy because, like, you know, Zion always wins his one-on-one matchups. There's not a matchup that Zion can't win, right? But, like, when you kick it out to, let's say, player X, and he's open or consistently open, and he does not make the shot or does not swing it into a better play, right? Also, what hurts is Zion creates a look. Player X is hesitant to do certain things. Zion has to recreate the offense. You have to restart it. The shot clock is running low. Definitely want Brandon back because, of course, Brandon would help with that. Like, Brandon should win his matchups also. Like, there shouldn't be a one-on-one matchup that Brandon can't win. However, again, if you're asking me about the stopper,
Y'all just forget what he did last year. I'm absolutely shocked.
When you say stopper, what do you mean?
I'm thinking you talking
like the run stopper. You mean like if they're on a run and he like
right,
scores?
right.
Because
we couldn't score in the third quarter. I'm thinking that he's another option to like.
No, I'm saying when you
going.
say stopper, people associate that with defense.
That's why
we confused.
Stopping the bleeding, you know,
Right.
like you heard that phrase, like stopping the bleeding. I mean, maybe I fucked that one up.
So a Band-Aid.
Yeah, he is my Band-Aid. Schmidt, you had mentioned. I wanted to bring this point up, but you and Mason are going to talk about this tomorrow. And you know, Chaz and Lito have also talked about it, but you talk about an athletic big. If they're not going to trust JV, right? You know, trade market wise, who do you think fits? Without, you know, ruining your show tomorrow, but who are you gonna? Because I know you did a show on Mo Bamba. He's a possible target, but who do you think can help this squad?
Yeah, I mean, look, it doesn't even have to necessarily be some uber athletic big. It's just got to be someone they trust on the court. And with JV, it's a twofold thing. They don't trust him on offense. You see that with his shot attempts. You see that with his usage. They think he mucks up the spacing, which I think to Chaz's point, the staff's got to be better on that. The process has got to be better on that. You got to find a way to get creative with your bigs and utilize them. He can't just be a 7-foot tall decoration on the court, like the 4 for 3/4. Like, that's not how JV works. But two, like, if that's how you want him to work, then you got to go find the spacer. You know, like what I think would, like, the type of big that they would play is someone that can give you some semblance of shot blocking, but more importantly, can like space the floor. So like right now they're having to play Larry because the spacing is in their eyes better. And to be fair, like, those units are scoring really well for the most part. But part of the reason they're scoring really well is they're going up against opponent benches in the second quarter. And, you know, at the end of third quarters and whatnot, there's Larry's units. They're blitzing opponent benches, and you're going to score really well. You better score really well against opponent benches like that. But when the game gets close, you know, we've seen at the end of games, we've seen in overtime, they struggle. And a lot of that's because it lets the opponent play a real big on the court, defend Larry with it, and just camp in the paint. So Zion's running into a wall every single time. Like this game, Biyombo should not have been able to stay on the court when the Pelicans went small, right? There's no reason. And let's say you don't trust JV out there. and to guard that pick and roll or to stick with Biyama, right? Let's say you don't trust him. Then don't bail him out by putting Larry in there who's going to take 0 shots and not be an offensive threat. Just put Zion at center. Like if you don't trust Zion to guard Larry for Bismack in the pick and roll, one, that's a problem. 2, if Bismack's the one beating you, then Devin Booker's not. Like that guy's a 40% foul shooter. And the you could put him at the line. You could do literally anything. And you put Z out there, put a shooter out there, put Trey out there. And I promise you that offense wouldn't have gone stale. Right. But so there's just too many things where I feel like they leave change on the table. But to answer your question about the big, I brought up Porzingis today on Twitter, which had crazy reactions from like people being in love with the tweet to people like just absolutely hating it. I think, like you said, you brought up Bamba. I think there's an argument to be made. If this is how you're going to use JV, then you don't need a true center. What if you go and upgrade JV with John Collins, right? Like your offense just lean all the way into one style of play. And then when you need to hit the Larry Nance button to go small and get your defense, right, then you do that. Right. When you need to get some buckets, you can go throw those Dyson, Herb, Najee lineups at people and just to stop them when you need to. But like you put John Collins out there. Yeah, like your rebounding probably takes a hit. He's not that bad of a rebounder. You can still get rebounded. It probably takes a hit with JV out. Your defense might be a wash, to be honest. Like, I don't know. Like, JV is underrated in my opinion. As a drop big, he does a really good job of that and like getting the rebound, which is a good part of defense and just occupying space. But Collins is mobile and he lets you play different styles. Like you can hedge and recover. You could, blitz pick and rolls. You can play drop if you want to. You could probably even switch with Collins a little more, more so than you can do with JV. So I'm just looking at bigs who are on the trade market. Obviously, DeAndre Ayton's someone that's on the trade market. I know Fives brought that up before. We've all discussed Ayton at some capacity, one way or another. Do I see Phoenix moving off of him without getting like a star in return? Not this year. Maybe in the summer they go in a different direction. Maybe they feel like they can get picks or something. I'm just not with it on the Miles Turner train. That's just I don't think that's the solution.
No.
Yeah, but
I don't think that's.
Yeah,
they gotta find that's the solution. Yeah. That's not the solution. Chaz, one thing I'm seeing.
Can I add? I just want to ask y'all a question. I just want to make sure my eyes aren't deceiving me. This is the same coaching staff who saw JV play last year without Zion, right? And you saw what he could do when he's involved, right? So what the hell is the difference?
There really isn't a difference, and we've talked about that a little bit, but it's this was going to be my next point to Chaz was that I'll answer your question too, Lito. Is because I'll let you go too. What's frustrating is CJ McCollum has 3 points in the second half. JV has 2 shot attempts and doesn't score in the second half, and they just go away from it for no good reason, right? They kind of panic, as Schmidt and Chaz have been saying. But Chaz, I see a lot of people talking on Twitter that the free throw discrepancy and the referees. And listen, man, when you blow a 24-point lead, fuck the refs. Like you lost the game. Lost the game.
I was surprised Willie brought that up in the press conference. I'm like, Willie, I know
that's blowing up. But
he usually never goes like Willie got to be better than that.
Yeah, but Chaz. Monty bitches about it last week. Coach Green kind of responds tonight and says, well, Devin Booker had more free throw attempts than our entire team. Can you blame the refs?
I'm so glad you threw me that alley. That was a good alley there. Because, again, I'll say this. When Monty was here, he wasn't a very good coach. He was okay, right? But, again, you find yourself in some similar situations. It's hard to be awful when you got Tyreke Evans and Anthony Davis and Ryan Anderson and Eric Gordon. And Monty, injuries played a huge factor, but Monty still found a way. Again, sometimes the staff just isn't good. I said this again. I've been saying this for a couple shows. Willie Green reminds me of Monty Williams so much, right? If Willie Green was to leave tomorrow and go become an assistant somewhere, eventually he will become a very solid to good coach. Right, but again, it's just with the JV thing. You know what the issue is with this staff and this team. with Brandon coming back to your point with Brandon, yes, Brandon does cure some issues as far as the ball, like scoring droughts. He does. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. Brandon is a very dynamic scorer. But the issue I feel like is this team is still not smart. This still isn't a very smart team, right? Like they don't know how to win. They don't even know to foul up 3 with like 3 seconds left.
Okay.
They're just not smart, man. So there's gonna be a ton of issues. Like, all right, with JV specifically. All right, yes. The paint is crowded now. It's hard for JV and CJ and Brandon. I don't think they're a good fit. And Zion, because all those guys tend to occupy the same space. It was JV's 3-point shooting was overstated last year. If you look at the second half of the year, even with Herb, he kind of fell off a cliff a little bit. So it's overstated. But why not run the offense primarily through JV when Zion's not on the floor?
I just don't get it.
Why
man.
not give
really
JV some run with that second unit? Could you bring in Larry like first off the bench, Larry and Dyson first off the bench? And even if we did get a John Collins or like a good role player, I don't trust the staff to even play the motherfucker. I don't even trust the staff to play him. Dog, it's the staff. Yo, all right, let me ask this. I know what I'm not even going to ask. I don't burn the house.
No, you gotta ask.
I'm gonna ask this. Okay, at this point, does Eric Spoelstra lose with the game? Does Eric Spoelstra make the same mistakes that you see this staff make with
Eric Spoelstra year 2 or Eric Spoelstra now?
I think he won a ring. No, Pat Riley won that ring year 1.
Yeah, Pat Riley, he replaced Dan Van Gundy, and then Eric Spoelstra won.
But here's the thing. I'm not saying that there isn't room for growth. Clearly, there is room for growth. What I am saying is it's hard for me to judge if you're a good coach or not when you got all this talent, because it don't seem like the team is learning anything. It's small fundamental shit. Zion, you got to box out. What's his name? Lito. You got to box him out, Zion. Coach, call a timeout. It's coach. The lead is under 20, coach. The lead is coach. They scored again, coach.
Chaz, I gotta interject. I know you're big on the timeout. I've coached probably 1,000 games. The timeout isn't this like superpower that just like momentum.
That may be true, but here's the thing: we've seen not calling the timeout not work.
That's very true.
Why don't we try something a little different this time?
True. Lito, Lito, I feel like this is your type of podcast, Lito, because we're talking JV. I've been pretty bad on him, but it's funny. I actually looked at some film the last couple games, and we're missing him on just opportunity after opportunity after opportunity tonight. They give him the opportunities, and my God, he takes advantage of it. I mean, he was incredible in the first quarter, and then you just go away from it. So yes, to your point, Chaz, to your point, Shamit. Like, that's a staff problem. Someone's got to be there on the fucking bench. And I know Willie Green has a lot of stuff going on, but you got to give him the ball.
Going back to when you ask, why is this happening? What makes this year different than last year? And here's what I'll say is it started changing after the CJ trade, after Nance got healthy, right? You saw this happen in the playoffs. They started going to Nance. They're like, oh, Nance can guard CP3 out there. CP3 went 13 for 13. Did not work. Ayton still gave him whatever, 85% from the field. Did not work, right? But in my opinion, and this is only my opinion, CJ and Nance walking into this team, they carry a certain voice. And they've also elevated that voice for good reason, because they needed that kind of those kind of leaders to come in, rally, bring the locker together, really push them over the edge for the playoff run, but also kind of put the city on the map, be these vocal advocates. And they've done a tremendous job at that. And they have paid them handsomely to be those guys. But what's also come with that is, their version, their imprint on what the team should look like and play like. And in my opinion, again, totally unsourced, Willie Green being second-year head coach is impressionable to vets like them. They are vocal vets, and they have a certain style. You've seen the Larry Nance interviews, and he's brought this up multiple times. Like, oh, Toronto can go 6'9". We can do that too. Like, we got all these switchable guys. Toronto's a bad basketball team right now. This team should not want to beat Toronto because, and even Zach Lowe commented on it, they don't rebound the ball. They don't shoot threes well. They try to beat you by tricking you into like bad shots with switching and then running in transition. That doesn't work against good teams. And any team with like a credible big, they kill you. And you're seeing that, when Fred VanVleet isn't hitting his shots, they got no creation on the court. We've seen that with CJ not hitting the shots, right? It looks ugly out there. And Zion's got to do everything, just like Pascal Siakam's got to go do everything. And you got all these other wings, and what do? They don't rebound. they don't score. They don't do anything else. And so to me, part of the CJ extension, part of the Larry extension has been, them being in coach's ear and leaving, hey, we should play this way. This is where the league is trending. The league isn't trending towards 6-9 ball. All the best teams in the league play huge. Right? The Celtics, they're at their best when they play Robert Williams and Al Horford together. The Bucks, Brook Lopez is dominating the paint right now. Giannis, when they go small, it's Giannis and Bobby Portis. That's still huge.
Right.
That is bigger than anybody the Pelicans got outside of JV, right? Who's Memphis? They're playing Steven Adams and Jaren Jackson together, Santi Adama. They're huge. All of these teams are playing big. You got to go through the Nuggets. You got to go through the Sixers if you want to be good. It's literally Brooklyn, Golden State, and the Clippers, who their preferred method is going small. Like that is their way of beating you because they got no other way of doing it. And we've seen.
And I'm going to cut you off, but like you mentioned, the Clippers and the Warriors, they have like two of the best tandem, like Curry and Thompson, and then Kawhi and Paul George, right?
This isn't
different,
right? Willie Green comes from the Warriors system. There is no Steph Curry on this team. There is no Klay Thompson on this team. Like you can play all the switch, everything defense you want. The reason Draymond could function out there, one, he's that good of a defensive talent. Two, they ran those bigs off the court because everybody was hitting threes. Like they were taking threes, and the whole thing was 3 is greater than 2, right. And teams got to sell out and get switchable defenders to match up with them to run them off the 3-point line, and then they killed you in the paint because Steph Curry, he's a very, very, very good finisher at the rim. Looney's catching all these alley-oops from Draymond coming down that short roll. So, like, you can't generate that kind of offense without also generating those looks from threes and also having those kind of players. Like, the Warriors tricked everybody into like getting all of these like 6'7" 3-and-D guys, but they don't work for other teams because they don't got the creators and the shooters and the Warriors.
Exactly.
And Zion has the gravitational pull of someone that is like Steph's caliber, just on a different part of the court, but he draws that kind of attention, and you're wasting that attention if you don't put the shooting around him, and if you don't want to put the shooting around him, then play big, get a big that works, force teams into submission on the glass, get the offensive rebounds, win the math game in a different direction. You can't lose the math game both on the glass and 3-point line. That can't be right.
That's just a killer. I mean, Lito, let Lito go. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just to add on to Schmidt's point about tall ball, he said the Clippers like to play small, right? Okay, so when the Clippers do play big, when they do get Zubac involved, you get a 30-30 game from him, right? Two other things. To add on to your point, you watch tape, we miss JV. You don't say. I had no idea. I had not seen that at all.
Well, me and you've been going back and forth on it, so I wanted to I wanted to see where you were coming from.
This is not to you. I'm saying in general, like if you watch these games, like this motherfucker is 7-1, bro. It's not hard to get him the ball, right? Secondly, I see there's a lot of trade, JV talk, whatever. Guaranteed, you trade JV, we play him on his new team, he dominates us.
Who guards him?
He gonna give you 30-20. He gonna put out the Zubac.
I'm telling you.
To both of y'all point, it's like even when you talk about Brooklyn going small, right? It's like, Kevin Durant 7 foot tall, like Nick Claxton. Nick Claxton is fucking
Ben Simmons. He's huge.
Ben Simmons. Like I don't
Joe
know
Harris is 6'8".
I don't know why. I don't know if people haven't looked at the updated like NBA.com. Brandon Ingram is 6'7". You have people still calling Brandon Ingram 6'10", 6 like he's 7 foot tall. He's nothing like Kevin Durant. He's not that tall. That's not who he is. He's not a very strong rebounder. He's a decent rebounder.
He always turns into Brandon Ingram.
No,
I don't even know how he got there.
I'm saying because I'm about to go to Zion too. It's like, again, you have a 6'6" man with a below average wingspan at the 4 who isn't a strong defensive rebounder. Like, it's like, come on. It's just.
So, Chaz, let me cut you off here because I want to know your thoughts, and I'm going to go Lito, then Schmidt can close it. Then what do you need at the trade deadline? What do you need? You can get two options. Do you need a rim protector and a three-point shooter? Do you need another defender? What do you need? What does this team need to address?
Personally, I'm for going all offense. I've been saying it all offseason. Not lean into your strength with this current personnel. You're never going to be a good defense anyway. As long as you got CJ and Zion, and if you keep JV, because I would like to keep JV to the offseason and trade him as an expiring. But as long as you got CJ and Zion and guys like that on the floor, you're never going to be a really strong defense. And as long as you got Herb and Dyson on the floor, you're never going to be a really good three-point shooting team. I say you lean totally offensive. You go get John Collins, do it. If you look at John Collins' contract, his percentage of the cap is declining every year. Like, it's not a bad contract. And I think because the only issue I think people have is, like, they might say a personality issue, like he might not want to reduce role, or they might say defense. But I'll say this: I don't care if everyone likes each other on the team. If you're not winning, I don't like you. I don't care if like all y'all get along. That's irrelevant to me, right? Because if you lose, no one's gonna be happy that they lost, but they all went to dinner later. No one cares about that. Go get some offense. Go get some talent, man. Figure it out later. Like, and that's why I'm at with it.
Lito, and then I'm gonna get Schmidt close it out because Schmidt's gonna love this. It's always a math problem. Once again, the Suns shoot 41 threes, the Pelicans shoot 30, and then they get out rebounded 10-4. Like it now turns into a math game, Lito. I mean, you can't consistently lose this battle every single night and expect to win. And then also, I mean, Jesus, but the Suns shot 35 free throws to the Pelicans 13. So
the Pelicans made 14 threes.
Yeah, made one less. Imagine if we put up 41 threes. How many Trey put up tonight?
I think he put up 8. He put up 8 shots in general. So I don't know. He
put up
many.
4. He put
threes?
up 4 threes.
Can I interject while we look up the stats real quick?
Yeah.
I know you wanted to close with me, but I feel like this is important because
you
brought up the math problem. This is how you can tell the math problem's messed up. All right. So the Pelicans had 77 shot attempts tonight. Suns had 83. They shot 5 more times than you did. You lost the math problem there. Okay, cool. They also got to the line 35 times to the Pelicans 13. Okay, you lost the math problem on that one too. And then you already talked about the threes. You lost the math problem on the threes. And then you lost the math problem on the glass. So you lost the math problem in every possible way you could lose the math problem. Every possible way. And that is, and I think Chaz has been saying this, like the inability to stick to an identity and decide who you want to be. It's reacting in the moment like, oh, this is kind of working. Let me go, throw this defender out there because this guy's getting hot, et cetera, et cetera. It's not sticking to your game plan or leaning into your strengths in any kind of way. That's all I gotta say.
Well said, Lito. Go ahead.
No, I mean I agree. I think I agree with Chaz and Schmidt on that. I feel like the problem is like you talk about the trade deadline, right? Like you talk about the trade deadline, but like I don't know what type of player we need to trade for because I don't know who we want to be. I think we need to figure that out first before I can tell you like what kind of player we want. Because hell, you trade John. Let's say we do get John Collins, right? Like let's say Willie decides or the staff decides he's not as good a spacer as they thought maybe he was, right? So then you still play Larry Moore. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know who. How do we want to play? How do we want to play basketball?
I'm gonna say this, y'all. The calls are coming from inside the house. It's the problem is a top-down problem. I keep saying this. Bro.
I need a collage of just this big.
Down. It's from the top down, bro. Like again, to Lito's point, you get John Collins or Mo Bamba. Even if you get Mo Bamba, who I'm a fan of, you're gonna see back-to-back DNPs. Coach's decision. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. And we're gonna be like, damn, he can't get a few minutes. It's gonna happen. It's sad, but it's gonna happen.
Hey, Lito, Do you think Billy needs minutes? Because he is a rebounding machine. Listen.
He can rebound the ball. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was pitching it to you. I mean,
bro,
he's a Eurobasket MVP.
He's the only MVP. He's the only MVP on the team. He's the only MVP on the team.
That's
right?
an actual fact.
That is a fact. I'm not making that up. He's a walking double-double. He's not great at the other side of the floor. However, he could have kept Josh Okogie off the boards tonight.
Yeah, not playing them isn't working.
Right?
So, fuck. I mean, at this point.
Is it crazy, Schmidt?
Yeah, I mean, there's solutions on the roster, and it goes back to what Lito says. They got to decide what kind of team they want to be, and whether that's playing JV more. Like, they could let JV foul out. Who cares? They're not going to play him in overtime. Just let him foul out. Right? I'm not as big of a believer in Billy Hernangomez, but at this point, try something, right? Like, you're getting consistently beat on the glass, so they have to decide what is their team identity and how they want to move forward with it. I'm completely with all of y'all on that front. Definitely with Chaz when he says, I hope they make it offensive oriented, because there's no way it's any team in the league that can guard you, because it goes back to the fact that they have the defenders to go small and defend in those, at those end of game situations if they need to, or just press that button for 6 minute stretch. Okay, we're just gonna switch everything, throw off your whole game plan. They got the versatility. So one thing I will say is what if you look at David Griffin's transaction history and the way he's acted at deadlines, and if you look at some of the stuff where he's given interviews on how he views team building, he's obsessed with the idea of big skilled players who can shoot over the top of other people. You can't contest that kind of stuff. But if you can't find that big skilled player, he's consistently throughout his career invested assets in acquiring big men, right? So they drafted Tristan Thompson at 4. They traded for Kevin Love. They traded 2 picks for Mozgov. You come to New Orleans, you're immediately picking up favors into your cap space, right? Then you trade a pick for Steven Adams. Now you're going for you trade another pick for Jonas. They have consistently, at every stage, he's trying to figure out, which one of his big men work. And if he feels like it's not working, he's a meddler at the deadline. I know he's definitely someone that doesn't sit still, even if things are going well. They came off a finals run and they fired David Blatt, right? This.
I mean,
it's a different situation. Yeah, what?
Stan Van Gundy got off.
Yeah,
Van Gundy.
Yeah. I mean, it's a different situation with LeBron on those 1-year deals. There's a different level of pressure, which does not exist here because they haven't even made. They haven't won anything meaningful yet. But I don't expect him to sit still. And knowing the kind of players he likes, I would not be shocked. If this looks a little different at the deadline, even if the Pels still are second or third in the West at that point. And to that point, you have enough draft assets to where you can make a swing and fail on that swing and still have left over for another swing. People are delusional when it comes to thinking how long title windows last. Title windows do not last. And if you have a chance to open one up this year, you should. You absolutely should.
Go for it. Chaz gonna kill me for this comment, but the Pelicans are 8-11, second in the West. So I know they've lost 3 in a row, but last couple of years we usually be 3-16, 5-20.
Justin, you would be the best point guard on the Pelicans. I'm so glad you said that because I don't. You ain't got to finish it. You ain't even got to finish it. That was a hell of an alley, right? Hell of an alley, dude. I'm gonna say this. If you're dehydrated and you're real thirsty, anything you drink is gonna taste good. It's gonna nourish you. You be like, oh, thank God, sour milk. That doesn't mean sour milk is good, right? You're just happy to be drinking something. If the Pels are failing, they've given themselves a lot of room for error because you're such a talented team. I believe once they figure it out, they're gonna be incredible. But it's still there were blatant flaws with this roster going into the season. There were mistakes.
People didn't want DeJounte Murray, Chaz.
People didn't want
Kevin Durant.
People didn't want Kevin Durant. They still don't want Kevin Durant. You know what people say to me at the suggestion that CJ would be a really good 6-man. It would give Brandon and Zion room to operate. People don't hear that shit.
I feel like I heard that before.
This is a 15 deep roster, 15-man deep roster according to some people. But all that being said, look, I'll say this.
30 seconds, and we got to wrap up.
All that being said, I do think the team needs desperately to lean one way or the other. I think you're going to get to a point where certain contracts start to age poorly, and you got the assets now. You don't know what's going to happen with this Lakers pick. Why wait? The West is hurt. That's why you're second right now, because the Clippers ain't shit. That's why you're second, because Denver can't figure it out. You're not better than those teams necessarily. They're hurt. Take advantage of the wounded. So I think you should go get Cat, go get Collins if possible. You might as well do it. Why not?
I was talking about my friend today, man. Like, the West is down. This is your chance right here.
And that was Cat anyway.
Yeah, sell out on offense is what y'all saying.
Go all offense. You ain't gonna never be good defensively.
Lean offense. So yeah, okay. Presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of Boot Crew Media. Bet $5 on any NFL team or NBA team to win, and you can win $150 in free bets by using code BOOT. Yeah, Bucks Monday.
I think we might win that game. I told you we get up for stars.
It's
Devin Booker's your star. We got go ahead.
Hey, but look how we played early.
You got two huge men on Milwaukee's team, and JV is not gonna play. So that's all that.
Oh my gosh! See, it went back to the Denver game, and I was like, how they choose to play Jokic is gonna tell me like how they want to do it. And they didn't want to play Billy. They didn't want to play. Jonas kept on getting in foul trouble. That's the only reason Billy played. Their preferred option was to actually go through Larry, which Billy Hernangomez saved them from themselves. And allowed them to actually play a big who made Jokic work. And so I am not looking forward to going small against this Milwaukee team, because it's going to be a free throw line parade for Giannis. He's going to put up 45, 15, and 12 in 3 quarters if they go small.
And guess what? We will recap that on Mondays. So
you know what? I'm not even going to be able to recap. This is what I'm going to do. I'm gonna clip everything I say. I'm gonna clip the last 2 videos together, and that's gonna be. I'm gonna have the same answers for everything, because the same shit gonna happen. We already know this. But
also, I always mess this up. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Love to hear your thoughts on the Pelicans blowing a 24-point lead. Do you have something to say, Lito?
I got so much to say. We complained about free throw attempts when we gave up 24 points. Like, am I missing something?
I'll see. I'm ending the recording.